Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show live. It's our EFL weekend review where we take all our clubs in the AFL and see what's been happening. With me is Jason Booker to talk all things Leeds United. Jason, you all right, mate?
I'm all right, mate.
All
I'm as
right.
well as I can be right now.
I'll review out, see how we were feeling. Huddersfield Hubs, Stephen Downs on to chat all things Terriers. Steve, how we doing, mate?
Not bad, Steve. Not bad.
And then rounding off the panel as well, we've got Gareth Walker from the Width of the Post here to chat all things Bantams, Bradford City. And please get your comments in. Please get your likes on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well for more content for our teams across West Yorkshire. We're going to start immediately at Valley Parade with Bradford City. Gaz, how much brighter does the world seem with that first victory under the belt?
Yeah, it always does, doesn't it? We played all right on Tuesday night in the Cup, actually, at Accrington. Better than we had at Crawley. So it's been like gradual improvement. And then Saturday, conceded an early goal and we thought, oh no, here we go. It's an awful goal to concede. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
Tried to play out from back and Lewis got caught and just nicked it off his toe and scored. But yeah, we came to and we deserved to win, I think. It was a bit dull in second half, especially after we'd gone 2-1 up. We just sort of saw it out. But yeah, 3 points is 3 points in it, so hopefully we can crack on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goal and the I couldn't believe what I was watching because it's just it's like a horror show in slow motion, isn't it? And what was the atmosphere like at Valley Parade at that point? Because obviously it's been such a not difficult time, but obviously a lot of pressure on Hughes, disappointment last week. I guess it could have really gone downhill from there, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could. People have been on his back on and off all the way through last season as well for playing out from back because obviously it doesn't always work, especially in League Two. People just want you to get it up pitch. Yeah. Especially when we're playing it out from back and we're not penetrating going forward. People get on his back, and then obviously when that happened, it did start a few angry voices in crowd, and you thought, here we go. Someone was shouting, "You need to go, Hughes," and this, that, and other. It's like first home game of the season. Give him a chance. You know what I mean? But yeah, I just think the personnel's still an issue. If we're going to stick with this formation, we're not playing 3-5-2. We're playing more a 3-4-3 at the moment. Cook's still on his own up front, but we've had Walker one side of him and Odewar at other side of him, and it's worked quite well. We've looked good going forward, especially with Pattison breaking from midfield. The issues have been defensively, just because I don't think we've got the personnel to play it out from back, and obviously we don't really have too many options for wing backs really at the moment. Hopefully that'll be rectified going forward towards end of transfer window, because going forward we do look good. Been impressed both times I've seen us at Aki and obviously on Saturday. So if we can sort ourselves out defensively, because that's where we look shaky, hopefully we'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. Andy Cook, no goals, 2 games. Are we worried?
Yeah, he's not expecting it after last season. He had a couple of chances Saturday. Got ball caught under his feet a couple of times. But he's such a threat. Like, he holds ball up. He's got 2 assists, I think, already out of the goals we've scored. Defenders are frightened of him. So even when he's not scoring, he's got that reputation now where he creates a bit of fear amongst other defenders. So, yeah, I'm sure he'll score eventually. It'll come good. He's one of those players who beats himself up a bit when he doesn't score. So hopefully it doesn't go on too long for him. But yeah, he had a couple of chances Saturday. Probably disappointed not to put one away, but it'll come. It'll come.
There were only one occasion, I think, last season where Bradford actually came from behind at home to win the game, and they've managed to do that in their first home game of the season. How significant do you think that is going forward?
Yeah, it's a big thing. Hughes mentioned that after the game in his post-match, basically saying that obviously we didn't manage to do it, well, to say once last season. And obviously to do it straight away has got to be a mental thing that we've overcome there. I think it helps having players who can break from midfield, like Odewar and Pattison have been really good at that these last 2 games. We didn't have that last season, so we were often playing in front of teams quite a lot. Whereas when you get people running beyond Cook and he's not isolated, that's made a big difference in breaking teams down. And obviously probably helped us in being able to come back from a goal down as well. So yeah, it's a massive thing, and hopefully it bodes well for the rest of the season. We just need to sort that defence out, I think, and maybe things will start looking up a bit.
Yeah, that winner as well, Alex Pattison. It was a really good goal actually when you watch it, and now he took the strike on. Fantastic stuff for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, remember when we signed him, his manager at from Harrogate, Simon Weaver, said he's the best counter-attacking midfielder in League Two. And he's shown that in both. He scored at Aki and he scored again on Saturday. And they were both very similar goals, just breaking from midfield, going one-on-one, and he finished superbly both times. So to have someone who can finish like that, and like I say, and break the lines from midfield and get beyond Cook, will hopefully help us in good stead. I'm glad we've got him, actually. Maybe he was the right signing all along. We didn't want Johnny Williams. We were happy to get him. So, he's massive for it. I think he could be a really good player. Him and Oduor look like two good signings, to be fair to him. And hopefully McDonald, when he comes in as well, he came off bench for last sort of 10, 15 minutes, I think it was on Saturday. He's had hamstring injury, so them three look like good signings, and hopefully they'll build us in good stead going forward, because I think the players that we've needed, and they'll help us improve on last season. Yeah,
talk to me about Clark Ado then, man of the match performance.
Yeah, definitely. Really impressed with him at Aki on Tuesday, and again, impressed with him on Saturday. Deserved his man of the match, got his goal, following in when I think it was Cook's shot that were parried out to him, and he just managed to get his head on it and head it back in. But yeah, everyone said when we signed him, don't play him as a wing-back. Managers have tried to convert him to a wing-back before, and he's not a wing-back. And I think Hughes has realised that early doors. He said when we signed, he was asked a little bit about it, actually, by Jamie Rayner after the match. And he said that we'd signed him because he was versatile and could play a few positions. But I think he's realised early on that he's much better further up the pitch. So he's tricky. He's quick and he's willing as well. He'll keep going. He seems like he'll keep going even when he don't always work out. So if he can keep that attitude and he can chip in with a few goals as well, I think it could be a good signing. I think we mentioned on last pod, he's got a bit of a cult hero status at Barnsley. So if he's got a 3-year contract with us, which he's probably not quite a lot for League Two, really, to have a 3-year contract. So if he can keep going as he's going, he could be an astute bit of business.
Yeah. Just to bring the other two guys in, are you jealous a team's actually won a game in the EFL for West Yorkshire?
Go on, you first, Steve.
A little bit, but I just want to ask Gaz about that penalty at Accrington. That must have been the most crazy penalty I've ever seen in my life. The fact it nearly went in when the guy didn't actually mean to do it. Your heart must have been in your mouth, really.
You were all sat there saying, "Get up, Lewis, get up and push it off." But the Aki manager said afterwards, they were asking him about it, and he said it wouldn't have counted anyway because he double kicked it as he slipped.
Yeah, double-footed.
To be fair then, to Aki manager, like that's at least good honesty. I mean, he wouldn't have cared if it would have counted, I suppose. But the thing is, guys, you were right, weren't you? We were talking last week about the formation and the guy on the fullback position that you were on about, and it proves that you were right. Put round pegs in round holes, and who are you going to win? Makes sense, doesn't it, mate?
It's not rocket science. Not rocket science sometimes, is it, Steve? Do you know what I mean? Like, just get players in the right position, and they'll do it. I mean, we still look a bit like I said. We had Gilead at left wing back on Saturday, and he's becoming a bit of a utility player, but I think he's more of a midfielder. We need to sign a left wing back. And maybe someone who can play on the right side of the back three with a bit of pace. But other than that, the first 11 might be all right. If, like you say, we keep putting square pegs in square holes and not in wrong holes, we might be all right.
It'd be nice to see Clark Ado do well. I don't know about you, Brandon, but I always watch for the young Leeds lads to see where they end up and what they do and stuff. And it's always nice when you see them go on to be successful wherever, really. So, I hope he does well there. Good player, I like him.
He's made a good start. People are impressed with him. Because obviously, like I said before, we were worried we were going to chuck him in at left wing back because we haven't really got a left wing back. He's seen him how he can do further forward. He's made a really good start. I hope it continues because, like I said, we need somebody like him and Patterson who can go beyond Cook when he's holding ball, who can run past him rather than having to play it back. And he's quick as well, which is always a threat, especially down at lower leagues. Defenders don't like quick wingers, do they? Yeah. So I'm really pleased. I hope it continues.
The only thing I'd worry about is if Cookie don't score the goals. Like I wouldn't say you've got a natural sort of heavyweight striker in that team, have you? That's the only thing I'd say. You got really good creative players, but when it comes to putting the ball in the net, if he's not coming up with the goals, which I'm sure he will do because he did last season. But I think you need somebody else, just a different option, don't you? Really?
Yeah, that was a major problem last season. He scored such a large percentage of our goals, it were ridiculous. I think next highest scorer after him were like Scott Banks, who got like 6 or something, and then like Tyreek Wright, who left in January, and he got like 3. So we need players chipping in with goals. Hopefully, like I said, he's not scored yet, and Patterson and Oduor have. So hopefully that's a good sign. But my worry is with Cook, he's the focal point of the attack, and we're flogging him to death at the moment. He's playing 90 minutes every single game. If he gets injured, the backup that we've got is Verdane Oliver, who we signed last summer from Gillingham, but he's injured and he's I think he's got a groin injury and he's out till like probably October time. So unless maybe we'll sign some kind of striker who can cover for Cook, you know, in the window. But it's whether you want to do that when you know you've got Oliver coming back in October. So you don't want 3 target men, 2's enough. But with 1 injured, and if you were to lose Cook as well, then it's a bit of a problem because we've got Matt Derbyshire and Tyler Smith, but they're both sort of little strikers. They're not players who you can build your attack around as a focal point. So. Yeah,
Matt Derbyshire, my God, I remember him at Derby. He was a donkey back then, and he still is now.
He's still cracking it. Yeah, he's still going. We got him from Cyprus, I think, in January. He's like 39 or something.
How many goals? How many goals did he score out in Cyprus? 2.
I don't know. He reckons. I saw an interview with him. He reckons that because he's been in Cyprus, because it's like a lot less intense than obviously playing in the UK. He reckons it's enabled him to extend his career, and he can have a couple extra years by coming back over here. He's looked all right when he's played. Actually, he was injured not long after we signed him, which is probably not a surprise at his age. But when he has come on and he's contributed, he scored for us in playoffs at Carlisle. He's a different type of striker to Cook, so hopefully he can play a part going forward. Yeah,
we're getting him on the show next week, Steve. What were you thinking? Come on. Yeah, everyone you slag off, we're going to book him in and stuff, you know. Yeah, Andy Cook, do you think he'll give him maybe a mid-season rest again? Because that's what he did last year, didn't he? Kind of give him a little bit of a break, didn't he? Might give him a breather when Verdane Oliver's back, potentially something like that.
Yeah, it worked last season. There were fans who were up in arms a bit, like look at that team. But it really worked, and Oliver managed to chip in with a couple of goals when he played. And when Cook came back in January, we're totally refreshed, and he just went on another scoring run. So yeah, it's probably not a bad idea, Brownie, if we can do that again. Obviously, you need Oliver to be fit to be able to do it, but it worked last year, so hopefully it'll work again if we do it again. We just need to keep him. Well, I said keep him scoring. He's not scored yet, but when he starts scoring, keep him scoring. If that's the best way to do it, then all good. Yeah, absolutely. Transfer front then, Gaz. Have you heard anything? Any whispers going around? Nothing confirmed. There was a link last week with a young lad called I can't remember. I don't know how you say his first name. His last name's Gordon, and he's at Crystal Palace, a young forward from Crystal Palace. He were at Carlisle on loan last season. He played against us in playoffs, and he's being linked with coming to us, but he's also being linked with going to a couple of teams in League One. And I think City were kind of hoping that the good relationship we have with Crystal Palace from Scott Banks last season might swing it in our favour. It was Alan Nixon that were reporting it on Twitter last week, and it's gone a bit quiet since he first said it. He linked us and these League One clubs, and then the day after he said we'd won the race. But he's talking about
John Kamani. John Kamani got it.
That's the one, Jace. Yeah. Yeah,
he's a winger. Good player.
Yeah, winger / forward. So he'd probably be good for us in this 3-4-3 if he can play one side of Cook. And he's got League Two experience. But yeah, so he's the only one I've heard at the moment. Like I said, I'd like to see us bringing a left wing back and a right-sided centre back. But a winger would be good because at the moment we've got Oduor playing one side and Walker playing the other. But Walker went off injured on Saturday, and the backup to them's really Harry Chapman, and he's out till October as well. So we could do with another winger. So this Gordon would be a good signing, I think, if we can seal it off. MK Dons, the early pace setters in the division. What have you made of League Two generally? A wider view of it the first couple of weeks of the season? It's interesting because I tipped Stockport to win league again, and I tipped them last year as well. And they've lost the first two, haven't they? What's happened there? What's going on with Stockport? Crazy. They did it last year, and then they came good and only just missed out to last weekend at season. But I thought, having sort of got used to the league last year, that they were nailed on to fly through. They lost in playoffs last year, didn't they? Yeah, finally. Yeah. And missing a certain scout, Jason, aren't they? That's what
that can be a hangover. That I'm sure, like in a couple of weeks they'll get good. They're too good. That squad's way too good for that league. I agree. Yeah, I agree. That's why I tipped them to win it. They lost, but we play them on Tuesday, so they'll win on Tuesday, won't they? That'll be the first win of the season. They're playing us. So,
I can't go because I'm going to York to watch cricket tomorrow. Watch Yorkshire, so I can't go to Stockport. But I wouldn't mind it going. But yeah, I think they'll come good eventually. As for others, Wrexham have had a tricky start, which is nice to see. They all thought they were going to come straight in and waltz through division, didn't they? And so it's nice to see them struggling. MK Dons, like you say, I think people knew they'd be strong coming down from League One. To see them hammer Wrexham in first game was a bit of a shock, but they're obviously going to be up there. I just think it's going to be a really tight division. I think half of the league will fancy the chances of going up. So the quicker we can get winning or keep winning, build a bit of form, the better, because if you don't, I think you'll get caught out quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. You did mention it there, Stockport, and it potentially Stockport's first win of the season. But seriously, how do you see it going? Do you fancy City to kind of back up that victory against Colchester from the weekend?
It's hard to say because it's so early on in the season. Like I said, we were poor at Crawley, but we've improved gradually at Aki, and then obviously on Saturday. So I'd probably take a draw at Stockport tomorrow night. You know, they're going to be up there come end of season either way. So if we can draw there and then don't they draw your aways and win at home. So that was what we couldn't do last season. We couldn't win at home, but we've got off to a good start at home now. So if we can keep that going and, like I said, draw away, win at home, I'll be happy. Stockport's a tough place to go.
It's a really tough place to go. I think that they've got one of the best atmospheres, best grounds in the division, mate. I know I say that from a bit of a biased perspective, having worked there, but it's just a class ground to go to. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, I went last year, and they met the noise, don't they? Which you don't often get in home grounds in League Two.
Yeah, it bounces.
Like to think that we do as well, but some of them they're just libraries. You don't hear a thing. But yeah, Stockport. I tell you, who else made a lot of noise last year? Oh no, it was year before I went. It was Hartlepool. Their fans were really loud. But obviously they went down last year, so we won't play them this year. But I say Stockport, Hartlepool created good atmospheres. So hopefully
Hartlepool fans are nutters. The game on last day of the season, I remember, and there were like 300 of them, and they dressed up as Santas. That were on last day of the season, like years ago. It was crazy. I don't know why they dressed as Santas, but there we go. They wanted to, so fair play to them.
City fans used to have a thing about getting dressed up on last day of the season. I don't think I ever saw Santas. Some thought used to wear Hawaiian shirts and stuff. It's like. And my mate was telling me that he remembers, I don't remember this, my mate was telling me that in early 90s when Paul Jewell played for us up front, apparently he only scored, I don't remember this, or maybe a bit young, but he said he only ever used to score right at the start of the season. So people would start wearing the summer shorts and stuff in winter to try and get them scoring again.
That is making your support go the extra mile.
Dedication.
Yeah.
Did it work?
I don't know. I don't think it did. He was a good manager for us, though. Got us up to the Premier League, didn't he? So, it's a bit of a legend with us, is Jagger.
Yeah, I used to go to the occasional Bradford City game because my best mate was a Bradford City season ticket holder, and he'd drag me along occasionally. So, yeah, I remember that era quite well. It was pretty good.
Late 90s. That when I started, I was 15, 16, started going to games on my own. It was the best time to be going because we were absolutely flying, and obviously we got up to the Premier. Yeah, and then
was he straight in after Kamara? Was he straight in after Kamara, Paul?
Yeah, Jagger took over from Cammy. People wanted a big name when Cammy left, and I think Richmond shocked everybody by going for his assistant. And he had it from whenever Cammy left at the end of one season. He had it till end of season. Didn't do very well, and everyone was like, "Why have you given him it full time?" And then he took us up. So
he don't manage now. He don't manage now, does he?
No, last I heard, he was a director of football at Swindon or something. But I don't think he's there now.
I just think when he managed, it was like that golden sort of period of the Football League in a sense, where you had all these characters like Paul Jewell, turning up at Wigan and at the old JJB. Well, obviously it's not old because it was the same stadium, but when they had the crappy JJB badge on the side of the ground and everything, massive letters. Yeah, he always had that jacket, didn't he? Do you remember that jacket with the old Wigan badge? And then the logo for the JJB was twice the size of the Wigan badge. It was like they curiously made it so people could spot the sponsor rather than the badge.
I don't like to play down what he did, but we backed him with a fair bit of money that summer when he took us up, which were a big thing for Bradford. And then he had money at Wigan as well, didn't he? Because he had Dave Whelan funding him, and he had Nathan Ellington and Jason Roberts up front, and they absolutely did it, didn't they? Championship. Yeah.
I like your kit this season, Gaz.
Oh, do you like it?
Home kit, yeah, I do like the home kit. I think it's it's like a normal Bradford shirt, but it's just clean. I think last few seasons you've been a bit drab with your shirts, but this season I quite like it. I'm not going to buy it, but you know.
You can't convert you, Steve.
What's everyone think of that badge now?
Say again.
What does everyone think of the badge now?
Oh, I don't know, to be honest. They were on about changing it, and then we didn't do it.
Did it not go for it? Did it? No, because didn't they do like 3 designs or something, and they got like consulted with a committee about it and fans and everything. What happened? Did it just all go by the by?
I think it got, they took on what fans had said, and fans didn't want it. I wanted them. I didn't see why we needed to change it. I really didn't understand it. Why do you need to? I think we've only had it since like early 90s. Anyway, it got changed then. I don't really understand what the plan was to do it. I don't know why.
It's branding. It's branding.
I think of making them they're so generic. Some of them, though. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're just trying to make it all quite generic, so it sells well abroad, I guess. But they lose that kind of uniqueness a little bit, don't they?
Yeah. Is there an argument that like the more simplistic they make it, it's easier to print onto things?
Yeah.
Like, it's easier.
It's easy to market, Gaz. It's easy to market over abroad as well. That's why when we went up, literally they got rid of everything but the terrier on a ball, and that was it.
Yeah.
it was just. I didn't understand why they did it, but apparently it was to do with the Chinese market, and I don't know. But anyway, it's all to do with it's crap. Anyway, keep with the badge. I like that.
Yeah. I wasn't as against it as some people were. Like, I could have taken it or leave it, but yeah, I wasn't one of these that were I was quite happy for it to stay, to be honest.
Yeah. Good stuff. Okay, well, we're going to move it up a couple of leagues then, and we're going to focus on the Championship. Gaz, thank you very much for that, mate. I know you can't stay with us. Pleasure as always. We'll speak to you again soon, mate.
Yeah, and you. See you soon, lads. Take care.
See you guys.
Hey.
Cheers, guys.
Steve can go first today.
Okay.
I'm not ready yet.
Why?
You told me which order I were going in last week, so I'm doing the same this week. I want to go last today.
What? So you can have your super mode?
Yes.
Oh well. Yeah.
Yes.
Basically. Steve, 1-0 loss against Leicester at home, but as you put on a tweet, I believe, lost but proud. Very good performance. A lot of good chances. On a different day, it could have been a victory for Huddersfield. But what did you make of it, mate?
I did. It wasn't a tweet; it was a WhatsApp message. But fair play.
Oh yeah. That was in. Oh yeah.
But it was.
We actually referenced that on our match review. I think that came through as we were moaning about Leeds. We saw that come through.
Well, that's because Jay's always looking at that, but what I'm doing. In terms, can we just jump back to the Tuesday to the cup game?
Yes,
please, because I feel like that was important. Really, but obviously, we came up against Middlesbrough, who were playing again this weekend, but it was a home tie. Here's a stat for you, lads. You'll love this. The League Cup, I believe, has been running since the mid-1980s in its different guises, whether it's the Milk Cup, Coca-Cola Cup, Carling Cup, Carabao Cup, League Cup, whatever you call it. Town have only been past the third round twice in that time. Our League Cup record is pretty shocking, to be honest. So I wasn't holding out much hope. Michael Carrick's silky football side, Middlesbrough, coming to the John Smiths. We put out a very young team, apart from Hoggy and Maxwell, the goalkeeper. And the lads did really well. We took the lead, great goal, and then young Headley unfortunately got sent off, and it was a red card. And it was all sort of muddled from there on. I think we lost his way slightly in the match. Came to about the last 10 minutes, and Borough had got the lead sort of well on the way by then. They'd scored 2 goals that were pretty preventable, and then we got a goal back with Huddling in the dying minutes, but it was too late. And I was proud of that performance by a very, very inexperienced and young side, and a lot of the teams showed what they could do. Taking that then into the Leicester game against a team that spent £40 million on the team this summer, has got one of the best sides in the division that's ever been. They've got Dewsbury Hall, Iheanacho, Fairs. You just run through the team and it's just mad how what players they have in this league.
One for me was Ndidi when I saw Ndidi on the highlight.
Yeah, indeed.
This guy was touted for, PSG or something a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, that was mad. And then they had that other lad that if you play Scrabble and names were allowed, you'd win every day because it was like Mvin and did do that.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
we'll say.
Yeah, the one who scored. So, but yeah, a really gutsy performance from our lads. I don't think Warnock was expecting anything other than a defeat, but he hoped in his heart that probably we would have put up a fight and made the scoreline close, which we did. And it's Nichols made 3 unbelievable saves, like honestly unbelievable saves.
Yeah.
But it's just gone through his legs as the goal, and it's really unfortunate. He didn't deserve that. We deserve to come away from that game with a draw. When they start chucking Jamie Vardy on to try and, because they're panicking a little bit, then, that they've not had the best performance and we've played really well, especially with, some of the lads having knocks and things like that. So I were really proud. I came away, clapped the lads at the end and, despite the defeat, it gives us a bit of hope. We play like that in the majority of games, and I think we'll be okay. But obviously, it's difficult to say that you're going to play like that in every game, isn't it?
Yeah, no, do you know what I've got to say? I thought it was refreshing what Warnock said after. Actually, he said he'd told them to go out and enjoy it, and he wanted to enjoy watching it. And it is refreshing in this day and age when it's money driven and the pressure and all this kind of. It was nice to hear that. I just thought, yeah, do you know what? It's actually nice to try and enjoy football for once as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's come round to the thinking that we're not going to be top 6, so he's not going to get his 9th promotion. I kind of think it's his last. Obviously, it's going to be his last sort of full tour around every club, so he just wants to enjoy it, and he just wants us to have a real go at every team we come up against. And I don't think he's that worried about us going down. I think he's a little bit concerned that we haven't got enough depth in the team because we are having to rely on them young players. So I think he does want by the end of the window to get in a few bodies. But I think he just wants the lads to enjoy it. He knows that he's got a team that will, try really hard for him. And yeah, there's some young lads in there that will make errors or, have lapses of concentration and don't necessarily have the quality that he's had in his other sides. But I think he quite likes the fact that we're just going to be in a battle for every game. It's his sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, he kind of revels in that, doesn't he? A couple of comments here from Adam. Thanks for your comments, mate. Played very well against Leicester, to be fair, and Diarra going to be a top player for Town. I only caught the highlights, but yeah, he did seem to look pretty sharp.
Yeah, the thing about Diarra, he's come through the academy and he's a really exciting young kid, 20-year-old, and always he's a bit like your Gray at Leeds, not Eddie, the young kid, where he just wants to run at people, and he's not bothered, I mean, he was running full pelt at somebody like Dewsbury Hall, who's played so many games in the top division, and the kid's got no fear at all. It's brilliant to see. The only thing is, he don't look up and get that final pass right, or doesn't quite convert the shot, and but that comes with inexperience, and I'm sure hopefully he'll learn that the more games he plays at this level. But we saw quite a bit of him last season, particularly when Warnock came in, and he's only going to get better. And he's got bigger over the summer. You can see that he's filled out. So I think somebody's told him the old Ian St John at Liverpool trick with Bill Shankly that somebody's got him to feed him steak and chips and every night to build him up. And yeah, I think he's going to be a great player. He's very skillful, loves a run, and just very creative. I really like him. Something different.
A couple of the performances, and Lee Nichols, obviously unbelievable servant to the club, but a couple of blunders early on in the season so far. Any concerns there, or is that just the life of a keeper?
No, the one at Plymouth, I'm not said the other week about the wind, but I think that didn't. I don't think it helped. And then when you've got a massive 6'3" Michael Hellick running towards you as well, you are going to be a bit nervous. But yeah, the one against Leicester he'll be disappointed with that. But like I said, I mean, he pulled off 3 unbelievable. I mean, the 1-on-1. I don't know if you've seen the highlights, both of you, but the 1-on-1 save he pulls off is just unbelievable. Yeah, like, crazy. And when we signed him from MK Dons for about, I think it was lower than 250 grand, because literally MK Dons didn't want to play him. He didn't want to be there, so he came to sign a keeper for that low money, as quality as he is, he's just unbelievable, really. And I don't think we'll sell him for less than 10 million. Well, we can't sell him. He's so vital to our team. He's one of the most important pieces of our puzzle. So, no, I think I love him, mate. I think he's a brilliant keeper. Comes out, catches, doesn't have a bone to pick with in terms of coming for balls. Good shot stopper, very good at distribution. So yeah, I'm not worried.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Adam's mentioned here 2 signings expected at Town this week. Steve, what do you know?
What do I know? Well, I know about.
I think you're the man in the know, because we saw a picture that went around socials recently. You and a certain Mr. Nagel stood side by side.
That wasn't me. That was Jay. Jay, mate. No, I think it is rumoured to be there are 2 signings. Hopeful, at least before the window shuts. Kevin did say that at his Q&A session on Thursday, which I was at. Got to meet him again. Lovely fella. I think he wants the best for Town, and I can touch on some of the points that he said if you want to go into that. But I think there is 2 signings. I think Warnock definitely wants a midfielder and definitely wants a striker. He's made that plain. There are some clubs that have turned him down and players that have turned him down, which he seems to be very disappointed in. His main target, I believe, was Ashley Barnes at the start of the window, but he wanted 2.5 times more than the wages we could pay, so we were never going to get him. But I believe that's who we wanted. So yeah, I think there's just they're very confident, or they seem to be very confident in one lad that they're talking to, and it'll be interesting to see whether the other one comes off. But we'll just have to see. I think it all depends if another club comes in and sort of takes the players' attention away, really, because that's the only thing we're battling against the wages slightly with other clubs. But yeah, he's a bit nervous on the transfer front, because we do need bodies, but I think we'll get them in eventually, and whether they're loans or whether they're permanent. So yeah, I'm confident enough.
There seems a lot of standoff at the moment in the market in general. I mean, obviously we'll get onto it a little bit when we talk Leeds, but it just seems a bit of a funny state of affairs for the Championship at the moment. I don't think there's a whole load of business going on. There's been a couple of teams obviously that have, but as a whole, it's been a bit strange.
Millwall have made, I think, 8-9 signings. Coventry have made quite a few, but also lost 1 or 2. So yeah, there's been quite a lot of movement in certain teams, but the majority, I agree, the majority of the division has been a bit still. I think that's mainly because a lot of clubs are living on the edge of this financial fair play, to be honest.
I agree.
The last couple of years, they've had to restructure because of COVID, and the effect that bite is now probably having an effect on. People thought it was going to be straight away, but teams have to factor in 3-year plans in their ownership deals with the EFL, and so a lot of these owners now will be in their 3rd, maybe 4th season of owning a club, and starting to feel that pinch from COVID. So I think that's happened. I also think that the movement in terms of Saudi Arabia has had an effect on the Championship, particularly at the top of the division, because if you think about it, teams like Wolves, Bournemouth, let's have a think, Luton, Sheffield United, these teams are not going to go for the top top players in the Prem, so they're looking to move the top end of the Championship up into their sites, and they're bigger players like Sheffield United. They've lost Ndai to Marseille, so they've gone in and got Aimer, haven't they? You know, so I think that's had a bit to do with it as well. So yeah, it's difficult, and then teams obviously like Town that are at the bottom end of the Championship, that suffers a little bit because, you know, the teams right in the middle of the Championship are battling all for them top end League One signings, and that's the difficulty. So the market's in a bit of a weird place, and it doesn't really help, you know, clubs like Town who are strapped for cash and in a difficult position.
Yeah. Interesting point here from Charles. Thanks for your comment, mate. FFP/PNS sounds good in theory. However, isn't it yet another tool like VAR to stop anyone getting near the super wealthy? Well, yeah, it does feel a little bit like that because, you know, Leeds have got rich owners. You know, one of the guys, just one person, Lowy. Is it Lowy? I think.
Yeah, Pete Lowy. Pete
Lowy. You know, he's a billionaire, but he can't pump in, you know, hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds into Leeds because you just can't do it.
The real problem comes with it as well, Brownie, is that the teams right at the top of the food chain also have the most funds to provide towards solicitors. They have all the lawyers and legalities all worked out, so they can twist these rules into favouring them even more. That's why Chelsea are going, you know, running these deals over 9-year contracts and whatnot. It's all a sham. It is all a sham. There needs to be something in place to protect, you know, football clubs from a bury, you know, and the things that have happened like that. But this isn't it. This isn't the answer. But this is for a different time. I think it's a big.
No, it's a big topic, and I think we could probably talk about it all night. But the essence of the argument is clubs like Town, Rotherham, Coventry, you know, Stoke now because they don't have parachute payments. Basically, it is to protect them sorts of clubs from going into financial ruin, so they can't spend over 39 million over a 3-year period, depending on what their income is. You guys at Leeds are in a slightly different sort of way because although you've got new owners, technically you have got parachute payments of over 100 million, and you've got big revenues that you still have from when you've the Premier League year, but the parachute payments are to protect you, but in your circumstance, financial fair play is hurting you, not protecting you, because you're already being protected by the parachute payments. Where for us, because we now don't have those parachute payments, the only thing protecting us is FFP. So in a Bury situation, the guy that couldn't spend any money because he didn't have any money, and then he spent it on the wrong things and he overspent, and then he put the club into dire straits, and that's why they eventually went out of business. Well, nearly out of business because they're coming back, but technically they got wound up, is because there was nothing in place at that level to protect a football club. Now, the other end of the division, you've got Man City and Chelsea, and they're arguably breaking FFP rules because they're getting around it in certain systems, whether it's through sponsorship, whether it's through 9-year deals for Caicedo on 250 grand a week, whether it's through offshore, foreign sort of bank systems or being owned by certain people. So I think, you know, there is a system that needs to be put in place. But the system that's in place at the moment isn't fair to everybody. It's protecting some clubs, isn't protecting others. Some are cheating the system, and some clubs are just slipping through the gaps, and that's where the problem lies. And I've seen it now from Town's point of view, luckily enough, because I've seen us come down from the Premier League. You know, I've seen as how we've dealt with the parachute payments. We didn't spend them in the right way. We've gone through that now where there's no money left. All the money from them parachute payments have gone because the previous owner, not Dean, but the previous owner to that, used the parachute payments to buy the football club. And that was the wrong thing to do. And so, you know, our parachute payments have gone, and now we're back into where we were 10 years ago. when we first came into the Championship, and that's our problem. But the football landscape from now to 10 years ago is very different, and you guys have gone through a very similar system now. Because if you don't go back up in the first year, your parachute payment goes back down to 25%, then it goes down to 15%, and then it goes down to nothing in year 4. And then you're back in the position you were 7 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Charles, fair point, Stephen. I just wish we all had a level playing field. Utopia, I know. Okay, so let's have a look and let's move on to Leeds. I thought we'll kick it off with Mark's comment here. Mark, I'm not sure if you're a Leeds fan or not, but he says Leeds fans, the way it starts it, Leeds fans need to accept reality. Stop thinking Leeds shouldn't be in the Championship. Stop dreaming they will bounce straight back up and move to the real situation of acceptance of where we are. Yeah, you must be a Leeds fan. Jason, it's been a couple of days since the defeat against Birmingham. It's been just an awful week and a half as a Leeds United fan. We're sat here Monday night now. What are your thoughts and feelings about the game at the weekend and obviously the bigger picture happening at Leeds at the moment?
It's almost impossible to kind of analyse the game the other day without talking about all the other dramas and issues that are going on, because ultimately that's the priority and that's what matters most. And it's also a big reason into why the performance was what it was the other day. Because the long and short of the performances is that, you know, we saw the week before flashes and signs of what Daniel Farke wants to do and the setup, and we had some quality to be able to put that out on display. But at the weekend, we just didn't. You know, I made a bit of a passing joking comment to Steve the other day in the WhatsApp group that the squad was probably as good as Towns, and he was like, "Don't be silly," and I'm like, "I'm being serious." Like, you know, the likes of Jamie Shackleton, you know, I don't want to be horrible about him at all. It's nothing personal. He's a workhorse and he'd make a great part of a squad where he'd come on for 10, 15 minutes to be, you know, to be some legs, but he won't look out of place at the bottom of League One. He just won't. You know, he's not a top-end Championship midfielder. Luke Ayling's, you know, just so far past it. You know, is Charlie fully ready? Leo Hjelde, I know he didn't play at the weekend, but this is what we're having to deal with. Paveda, Gellart, like the whole team is just full of players that are just not good enough for where we should really be hoping to be. As you know, Steve rightly said, we're in the best place, or we should be in the best position possible to be able to bounce straight back. And the facts are, because of the way that the club has been operated and run before the 49ers have taken over, we stand no chance. We're in an absolute no-win situation, you know.
Yeah.
Leicester and Southampton have got far more, you know, Southampton have been in the Premier League for you know, a number of years, and Leicester were Premier League champions 7 years ago, FA Cup winners 3-4 years ago. Sure, they're going to be in a bit of a stronger position. They were more established in the Premier League, but we should have more to show for being back down in the Championship. And the facts are is we've got a team that is way worse than the team that we went up with. Way worse right now.
I told you this was going to happen. I told Steve this months ago.
I said before the season started that we depending on what happens with recruitment, we would be lucky to be fighting for the top six. I said that. I've been quite. I think a lot of Leeds fans would consider me pessimistic. I think as myself as realistic. Before the season started, when we were building up to the first game, and I saw that we still had Sinisterra, Somerville, Nonto, some of these players, I started to think, well, you know what? We're going to have enough firepower to fire through a lot of these teams. And I think that would have been the case. But the facts are is that things have then developed, and we are allowed to change our minds, and opinions are allowed to change. And the situation that we're now in is the situation I feared the most when I was feeling my worst with you, Brown, and I was speaking about this, in that people just didn't comprehend and realize how bad relegation could be for us, given the position that we were in comparison to a Leicester or a Southampton. When you've got a Maddison and a Harvey Barnes that you can just go 40 million, please, yeah, thank you. Like, we don't have them. Even though we do have valuable assets, it's not the same. And then you couple that up with the situation that we've created for ourselves, or the owners have created for us, with these loan clauses and and the whole situation around him, it puts us. We're in a real tricky spot right now.
What is that Jack Clark situation all about? By the way, I find that a bit of an head mash.
Jack Harrison, you mean?
Jack Harrison, sorry, not Jack Clark. Jack Harrison.
Brownie knows that I know somebody, and I have made sure that I can say this. He's actually watching right now, so he's texted me while we've been chatting, and he's told me that the Everton deal's been done for a while, so it hasn't just been like kind of confirmed today. It's been done for a while, but apparently he also had a Saudi offer on the table, which is interesting. Would that have been money rather than a loan? I think Jack's situation is that he will be signed permanent. I think that there'll be not an obligation to buy, but I think there'll be an understanding that will be turned into a permanent transfer as long as Everton don't go down. Personally, I think it's going to be a little bit different to the other deals, i.e. that it's just a loan deal with no stipulation.
Do you see what I mean, though, about the Saudi thing? How it's disrupting
that's
markets at championship level.
I was thinking exactly the same thing, yeah. Interesting that he didn't want to go there, or he hasn't gone there, but I just think, like, the whole situation, I never believed that Jack Harrison would stay, but we should be able to be in a position, given who we do sell, that we then can say no to some of them going. And that's why the club are standing on so hard with Gnonto, because Gnonto's the only one that doesn't have a loan obligation or an obligation in any shape or form in his contract. That's why we're standing on, because he's the only, him and Melier, I think, by the looks of it, are the only assets that we've literally got that we can actually dictate a fee for. So...
Can I just say, Steve? Sorry to interrupt, Jason. Steve, what did you make of this Willie Gnonto situation, and now two players refusing to be part of a match day squad? I mean, what can you say about that? I mean, what a damning indictment of modern football.
Yeah, so we had it years ago with Jacob Butterfield at Fulham, and he refused to get on the coach. Apparently, this is all sort of conjecture. There's people that's come out and said it, so I'm sure if you go on the internet, you'll find who said it and where it was said. But yeah, he refused to get on the bus. He eventually did get on the coach. I can't remember if he played. I think he did, but supporters were not very happy at that, and I'm guessing Leeds supporters are pretty cross at Gnonto for doing this. I understand his thought process. There are three reasons for that. One, he's seen all these other players in your squad get these loan deals going to wherever they're going. So he'll be like, why am I staying at a sinking ship when all these other players are getting to go? Right? I get that. I'm not saying it's right, but I get it. Second reason is the Euros are next year. So he's probably being told, if you're not playing for a top-end club in a top league, whether it's in Italy, France, England, or wherever, you won't be coming in the Italy squad because there's other people that I can choose from. And the other thing is his wages. His wages might be too much. So you look at somebody like Dewsbury Hall at Leicester, you'd be thinking, my God, why ain't nobody going in for him? And the reason he'll be is because he's on a massive whack at Leicester, and nobody, these teams at the lower end of the Prem, won't be wanting to pay his wages, even though he's a great player. And
the thing is, Steve, right? So Gnonto is on pittance, but from all accounts, he's on pittance because bear in mind he was signed.
What is pittance?
He's on like $5,000 a week. He can't be. Steve, he is. He was signed for our under-21 squad. Was Gnonto originally? He's still on the original contract. So he's not on mega bucks.
So he's not got bonuses. So he won't have bonuses.
Well, I mean, he may have bonuses. I can't tell you what his whole contract is. But what I've heard, it's minimal. I think he's been badly about it. Bear in mind that Zaniolo did exactly the same thing at Roma and then got bombed out to Turkish league. His agent only looks after two players that you would know, Gnonto and Zaniolo, and they've both now done the same thing. He's clearly been really, really badly advised. And Leeds have clearly said to him, look, we want you to stay. We want you to be a part of it. If a bid comes in of this much, you'll be allowed to go. But if it doesn't, you are not leaving. And they have then turned around and said, right, I'm not going to play. The rumour is now he's taking a U-turn. And
I've heard that.
If you don't play, Jay, stick him in under 21s and go, right, well, you're not leaving then. And it's up
I
to
hear
you.
it.
You
I
either
hear
play
it, Steve.
you either play championship football or you don't.
I hear it, Steve, but then
applaud the club.
you're diminishing your valuable asset. I hear you, and I agree with you, but I'm just saying
100%.
from the flip point of view, if we're saying we want 30 million quid and Everton are putting down 20 million quid and we don't play him for 6 months, it's not going to be worth 20 million quid in 6 months' time. So it's a real tough one. It puts the club in such an unenvious position.
I mean, I'd sell him. I'd sell him, mate.
I'd sell him as well. It'd be gone for me.
Yeah, because you don't need people like that in the dressing room. I don't care how good you are.
Sinistera, from what we're hearing now, I think Daniel Farke's made this a little bit worse in that he's come out in the media after the game at the weekend and said the same things that he said about Nonto the middle of last week, making everybody think he's refused to play. By the sounds of it, he's had a niggle in his knee that he probably could have played with, but didn't want to play just in case a deal came up and he then couldn't leave. So it's similar, but not exactly the same.
But that happens over time, doesn't it? A player don't want to play. A player don't want to play because they might have a big move lined up. That happens over time. But to refuse to play is a different matter altogether, isn't it? That's basically saying I don't want to play for the 30,000, 35,000 people that are going to sit in that stadium.
It's spitting in the face of all the fans. I couldn't agree with that more. And I mean, I just think now, we've got a massive 2 weeks and we don't know what's going on with these deadline dates for the loan clauses. And I'm hearing one thing. I mean, today you read through people who you would trust as well, like online, and you're hearing names flying all over the place. Like it's a proper mess.
Is it a crisis to you? Are we in a crisis now?
I believe the club knew this was going to happen, and I believe Daniel Farke knew a version of this was going to happen when he took the job. I think it's close to being a bit of a crisis. I think this next 2 weeks is absolutely pivotal. And I'm not talking about whether we finish in the top 6 or top 10 or not. I'm talking about whether we are in a battle towards the bottom end or not. Because if this next 2 weeks goes as badly as it can be and we don't sign anybody and we lose Sinistera as well, we lose Somerville and we lose Harrison's gone.
You've got Gellart up front all season, and if you've got
Gellart up front, Shackleton on right, you're fielding 2 goalkeepers on the bench. You've got Joe Rodon coming on for his debut as a striker with 5 minutes to go. If that's how it looks at the end of the window, which I don't think it will be, but I'm talking worst case scenario, I am telling you, we are bottom 6. Yeah. That's where we're at, right? It's that serious for me. So, and I don't think it will be that. I'm talking very emotively right now, but I do think it's going to get better. I think we're going to see people come in. But what I do know is as a player that's potentially looking to come to Leeds United, and you're looking from the outside in at this situation, what are you thinking? Like you're not wanting to touch this with a barge pole.
What's Ampadu thinking? Thinking? Like, what's he walked into here? That's
Ampadu signing and Joe Rodon signing, even though only on loan, are the only things that's giving me optimism that they're being able to say to players, look, this is what's coming. This is what's happening. This is the date that it's going to happen by. You're just going to have to kind of trust in the project and believe in it. Because I can't believe that Ampadu wouldn't have had other attractive offers on the table, either from maybe bottom end of Serie A, maybe even, a Luton or a Sheffield United or whoever. I can't believe that he wouldn't have had other offers on the table. It can't be that Leeds were the only attractive option. So that is the only thing that's kind of giving me some sway back the other way. But
what are you thinking about the 49ers, though? They were the ones who stopped Jack Harrison going to Leicester, by all accounts, for 20 million in January. They stopped that. They signed off on Rutter. I've heard rumours there's a loan thing in Rutter's contract that might be exercised. Angus Kinnear was he's the CEO for the last ownership. He's still CEO. He must have sat there at the negotiation table with these clauses. I mean, the 49ers, I mean, what are you thinking? Are they partly responsible for this?
Of course they are. I don't think that anybody can be so naive to think that the 49ers just get a completely free pass with what's gone on.
Well, Parag came out in his video with the official Leeds United saying, I can do negotiations in my sleep. And by the way, can I say, where is the contact with the club? Where is the contact with the club? They released one statement about Willing on tour. Can we have some kind of interaction or something? We have, what's
the only thing I would say with that though, Brian, is do we want all of the information littering out in public for everybody to pick through and for everybody to mug us off about because of how badly we already know that this is bad? What could they actually come out and say that's going to make it any better? Like, sure, they could tell us what the plans are for the next 2 weeks, but then they're also telling the rest of the football world what the plans are for the next 2 weeks as well. So I think what we need to do now is get to the end of the window, and as I've said to you a few times, we can then properly break it down and analyse it then. I don't think you've ever seen anything like this. And it just goes to show you how bad Rads and Orta got it. Like, how naive they were. And I do blame the 49ers as well.
Parag was there.
I do blame them as well, but all I can kind of say to that is that they weren't the guys that were in charge. They weren't the guys that were signing off on the final signature, and they put too much trust in the people that had obviously got us promoted.
But I saw this. Go on. Sorry, no, I was just going to say, because I saw this stat and it was about Leeds last year, and I think there were something like 82nd out of the total football league in terms of fan engagement. And I can completely believe it. It's like Kevin Nagel, he's done that night where he's met fans and everything like this. Why don't we have something like that? Why don't we get this? He's done, all Parag's done is a bit of a podcast from his home in America. I know he was at the game last week, but we need more coming back to, even if it's just a look, we're working on several deals, we're working around the clock, we're trying to make this thing happen, keep the faith. It's just stone silence, and then it's we're releasing a new training kit video. Buy this training kit. You're getting several emails a day about buy this and buy that. It's just maddening.
Go on, Steve.
Can I just make a few points? And I'm only looking this from an outside point of view. So whether this holds anywhere, I've no idea. The 49ers were pretty quiet before, weren't they? As a part-time owner, so
they never said a word before taking over.
So I don't think you should be surprised that this is the way that they've looked to communicate with fans. I think it'd be interesting to know whether they do this style of communication or lack of it over in America, in their own sport over there. I think that will be very interesting to know what their communication strategy is over there. With this though, I don't think it's as big a crisis as what you went through with Brian McDermott and Cellino and all that era. I think it's just these people have actually got some money, and they're not just going to be clowns running the show. Unfortunately, I think what you have got though is got some owners that aren't that bothered about what Leeds fans think. They'll come out and say that they are, but I get the feeling that they're really not. With our guy, he's all about fan engagement. In fact, he's probably more the other way. Yes, he wants a winning side. Don't get me wrong. He's very, he wants to be competitive. But I think he's even more interested in what the fans think and where we want to improve around the ground and how, he did that American Yankeesism thing of calling us customers, which was a little bit not But I got his point when he went, we want to know what the customers think of our food and beverage options, and we spent like 30-40 minutes talking about bloody food and beverage in the ground, and that's not a big thing, and don't get me wrong, but to support us on a match day, that is a good thing to discuss, match day experience. So I'm a bit concerned. If I were you, and Jay's articulated it as he always does very well, I would definitely be concerned at the way your club is being run and what the long-term future of that process is, because at the moment it's looking like silence, and it's looking like bad decisions are being made on a strategic point long term and in the short term. And it's very short-sighted.
You know what I think, Steve? I think that the 49ers didn't really plan around taking over this summer. Certainly not as a championship club. I don't think that was ever in the pipeline. And I think they've gone in, done the due diligence with Rads. I think that's why it took so long. and they've looked through all this and been like, what on earth is this? That's what I think that has happened. And I think, when we've heard that Daniel Farke needed persuading, and it took us about 10 days to get him over the line from when we heard. And we had to sell the project and the job to him. I'm not surprised, because if they've had to explain all this to him, he will have gone, what? Like, we're going to have none of the players? We're going to be able to say no to none of them leaving?
He was shocked, wasn't he? He was shocked. He's been shocked in the way them contracts and them loans have been handled. I don't think he can actually believe what's happened there, to be honest.
He's also said from pretty much the first game of pre-season, you might remember this, Brownie, that the squad will look very different come the end of August to what it looks like now. He's told us this all the way through. We can't do very much until players start going out and all that. And the facts are is that we're now down to two. I would say two players that we can't say no to leaving, in Tyler Adams and Sinistera. I think everybody else we have got control over, if you like. So Melier, Nonto are probably valuable assets, but anybody else we've then got control over. Nobody else would be worth.
We're only going to get a fee for Adams and Nonto, aren't we? And potentially Melier. Do you think? I mean, I've heard about loan back to Feyenoord, though.
Mate, who knows, mate? Who? You know what? At this stage, I don't know anymore, and I'm so irritated with it. I just hope that once we start, we have to sign players. There's no way that we go another 2 weeks down the line. All these players that we're talking about have left, and we've signed nobody. Yeah, it's not possible. So I can only hope, and again, Farke said this, he said he hopes he gets through August with as many points on the board as possible. Didn't he? Yeah. He said something along them lines where he basically said, he was telling us we're not going to be anywhere near come the end of August. So I don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
Get him off it. Don't
do That's what I was thinking about today, Jay.
But you know what, mate, right? And I'm going to carry on ranting for another 30, 40 seconds, and I'm sure about it. The facts are is that, and this is me included, because when Bielsa left, I would never have pushed him out the door. Never. He'd have had a job for as long as he wanted the job for me. But when he left, I said, I understand it. I get it. The results weren't good enough. He weren't for changing and whatnot. And even I was wrong in that ideology in that sense, because that man was holding this whole shit show together. Without him, the lunatics were running the asylum. That's what happened. Bielsa had full control over it, and every single signing that was made since him has been horrific. There's no way that he'd have signed off on these contracts. No way, because he would not have had players that were 100% committed to Leeds United. Because I'm telling you now, there were times last season when these players that knew that they had these loan clauses thought, well, if we get relegated anyway, I'll have a nice cushy loan to Europe somewhere. No worries, don't sweat. Right, so there's no way. So I was wrong. We were all wrong. Bielsa did it all. And now Farke's been challenged with... I mean, we talk about previous relegations or previous situations. I think that this is comparable to when we came down from the Premier League last time. Obviously, not from a financial perspective, Steve. For finances, of course, we're much more sound. But in terms of what's happening with the squad,
Total different team.
There's an argument to be said that we had a more ready for championship squad when we came down in 2005 than we have now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
who have you got next up?
West Brom Friday night.
Yeah, West Brom Friday night.
Oh, taste
just looking at the championship, then a wider view. My early tip: Ipswich pace setters, top of the league, 2 wins. What stood out for you guys? I mean, incredible game, Norwich versus Southampton 4-4. What were you making? What are you making of the ITV Football League show as well? Is that a good watch?
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I've not watched it either. I've been catching all clips on YouTube.
Try to get those adverts. Oh my goodness me! It's the adverts. Honestly, it's just
that's why I don't watch it though, because I just watch it on YouTube. Just get all the highlights in 3 minutes. But in terms of wider, I think Ipswich have been stunning. I thought Stoke. I know they lost to Ipswich, but I still think they'll come good. Stoke. Southampton, Norwich, crazy game. I think we're seeing Russell Martin sort of step in now, but it'd be interesting to see over the next month or so whether his football is going to come off. They've lost James Ward-Prowse today.
Yeah.
They're going to lose Lavia to Liverpool. So they're going to lose some big hitters from their team. It'll be interesting to see whether it'll be interesting to see whether they step up in the market. Coventry beating Borough. I think that were a bit of a surprise, or it would have been at the beginning of the season.
What about Borough? I know Borough.
Now I've seen Borough on the highlights and what's their sort of second string. I agree with Jay. Maybe it's not going to be Carrick's, stellar season. I think they're not looking good. But I'm surprised you said that you didn't think Coventry would be. But looking at that, I watched the full game against Borough, and they just tore them to bits at times. Really,
they looked good against Leicester as well for 70 minutes.
QPR won. Ainsworth's got his job for another week.
What does that say about Leeds?
Mate, I mean, I've had conversations with Cardiff and Birmingham fans, and they're both like, especially Birmingham fans after the weekend, they're lapping it up and like, oh, we're back and stuff. I'm like, mate, you're living on a different planet. You're delusional. Yeah. Birmingham were shite. Sorry, but they were poor.
For Jukovic to score their penalty, by the way, Jukovic has been there since about 1993. Tells you how much their team must have improved, because it really hasn't. But
it came off the bench, Steve, in the 83rd minute, and I text Brownie and I says, Jukovic about to come on, 1-0 incoming. Because he always
scores
against us all the time. He scores against us all the time, and obviously we're a penalty. But yeah, he's an handful, to be fair. I rate him. I did rate him when he were a bit more in his prime. But yeah, I think Birmingham will be miles off it. They had a couple of okay performances. I thought Dion Sanderson was absolutely class at the back. He used to play right back when he were on loan at Cardiff. He were a right back, but he's moved into central position. He looked head and shoulders above everybody else on the pitch for me. Dembele was
Luke Ayling to bits, didn't he?
Dembele was like Dan James with no end product, but he was up against Luke Ayling, and Dan James was up against Laird, who had a decent game as well. But I didn't think there were anything in the game, really. They should have had a bit more, given that they were the home team. I had fans saying that Sunic and the other lad in centre midfield bossed the game, and I'm like,
no, they never.
No, they didn't. Ampadu and Gray actually had control of the game in the middle of the pitch. It were out wide that we got bombarded, especially down our right. But we know that's going to happen. We'll see what's going to happen with that. I would imagine that Dramé will come in at some point. But I said to you, Brownie, the other day, if you take Luke Ayling out of this squad at the moment, where is your experience? Your oldest player on the pitch will be Dan James at 25 or 26, however old he is. I understand why he's still getting in purely from an experience point of view. But we'll see. Sure. As you can see, I'm pretty dejected and frustrated.
Yeah, no, I think that's the majority of fan base.
It's fantastic to see.
Cheers, man. I think the rest of the championships, I don't think there's much to think about it yet. It's still early doors.
Nah,
what do you think? I was just going to say, what do you think Middlesbrough next weekend then, Steve? Huddersfield, how do you fancy that one? I fancy Huddersfield to potentially get something there.
Yeah, I think if we play like we did against Leicester up at Borough, I think we'll win. I honestly do. Borough very low on confidence. They'll think because they've beaten us in the League Cup that they've got a chance. But as I said at the start of the podcast, we've only gone through twice since the whole competition started. So, and it was against the second string Borough side. They've got some good players: Rodgers, Isaiah Jones, Howson, the old stager. But yeah, I'm confident.
Jason, West Brom Friday. What are you thinking, mate? Anything could happen before then. What players are left? But
Friday night under the lights, Ellen Road. I'd love to believe that we can get a first win on the board, but I struggle to fully be able to believe it given the state of the squad. How am I going to be confident? I would imagine Rodon will come in at centre-back, probably for Cresswell. Stroik will be alongside him, Ampadu, Gray, and then it'll be the same front four that we saw the other day, I would imagine, because even if Nonto has taken a U-turn or whatever, there's no way he's going to put him straight back into the starting lineup. I just don't believe that.
Would you have him back, by the way? If Nonto knuckled down and performed, would you be okay with it? Because my thinking is, I was raging about it last week, but then watching how we performed at the weekend, I'm like, God, I'd love Willie Nonto in there, to be honest. But it's very, he's crossed that barrier where he's refused to play. And
my opinion on it is, mate, is that he would have to come out and apologise. Like, there'd have to be some sort of genuine statement from him, not from his management or his agency or anything like that. Look, I was advised to do this. I shouldn't have done it. I apologise. I'm going to give my all for Leeds United while I'm here. Whatever. There has to be something. But I don't think we're in a position where we're able to refuse a player like him. Game time. We're desperate right now.
We are desperate, definitely. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Your comments, please smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more content. We will be back again. I want to thank my guests this evening as well. Jason Booker, thank you very much, mate. Stephen Downs from the Huddersfield Hub, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Also, Gareth Walker, who was on earlier to chat all things Bradford City. We'll be back. Have a fantastic week. See you soon.